Thank God it's Friday. Hello there, you're watching The Pulse on the JoyNews channel. Some of the stories we're looking at on the program. Member of the Board of Trustees for the National Cathedral is this afternoon taking action following a lot of tussles over the project. Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng is heading to court suing MP for Northtown Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa for defamation. We have details here on The Pulse, plus get reasons why the clergyman is heading to court. There's a lot more happening about the project itself, which we'll tell you about shortly. But don't forget that there are transparency matters also rising from government's gold for oil deal. This afternoon, we're looking at that policy measure as the Bank of Ghana has been appearing before the Public Accounts Committee. Meanwhile, a lot of Ghanaians are asking for corresponding prices at the pumps in the wake of government's gold for oil deal, which is targeted at reducing prices at the pumps.
If you want to do a deal for gold for oil, it should be something that we should be filling at the pumps and our pockets should be good. But now you brought the first consignment and yet still we can't fill it at the pumps. That meaning the deal is not well fit. So they should come again. They should come and explain how they are going about it.
So will that policy work? We'll explore all of the alternatives as we take a look at that novel deal, as government is calling it, the gold for oil deal. But don't forget that tension is yet to calm down in the Bawku municipality, where this afternoon taking a look at the situation there, tension continues to rise within the municipality following the alleged killing of some 8 individuals within the area. The RECSEC is this afternoon having a Security Council meeting and also trying as much as possible to find a solution to disturbances in the area, as we're also hearing of a possible infiltration by military extremists from neighboring Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso. So we're looking at all of that, plus taking a look at the Ghana School of Shame. That series is also up on the project here on The Pulse for you on the JoyNews channel. Don't forget that we're getting a lot more reactions and updates on the delivery of the pieces of furniture promised by the Sector Minister, Dr. Yao Osei-Aduchu. Over the last few days, the Ghana Revenue Authority has stepped up its clampdown on tax defaulters making visits to shopping malls in the capital. It has been a chaotic incident in some cases, with some of the managers being arrested for failing to implement the right VAT module. This afternoon, the Ghana Revenue Authority will be here to explain the rationale for the clampdown and what all businesses and individuals can do to prevent such ugly scenes that we've witnessed. First, though, some footages this week as we followed the Ghana Revenue Authority on their campaign to clamp down on the defaulting businesses, as reported by Joy Business.
They were not issuing the EVAT invoice. Then Palace Mall, they are also issuing receipts with duplicate signature of the Commissioner General. And then we have Snyder Shopping Center, they are also issuing non-EVAT invoice. And then we have Fresh First Limited, that's Second Cup. They are also not issuing EVAT invoice. All these places are centered at Spintex.
The operation is a continuation of the electronic VAT enrollment system, which was introduced by the authority in the last quarter of 2022. According to the Commissioner for Domestic Revenue and the Ghana Revenue Authority, Edward Jambra, some of the companies that have been engaged to begin with the process have compromised the system and acting contrary to the law.
Some of these taxpayers who have been hooked on, who are supposed to have been hooked on to the Commissioner General's invoicing system, are not fully complying with the directive. And what we saw was that some of them were issuing invoices outside the system. And as a result, these are infractions. These are, they have fractured the law.
Managers that were affected by today's exercise include China Mall, Snyder Shopping Center, Palace Mall, Second Cap Coffee, all on the Spintex Road, and ShopRite at the Junction Mall. Meanwhile, manager in charge of enforcement for Accra at the Ghana Revenue Authority, Joseph Aman, disclosed that all the managers arrested will be made to face the law court to defend themselves.
We have brought them to our customs head office. We are going to take their statement, and then the CID will continue with their investigation, and then we'll see what happens next.
So after taking their statements, like you say, the CID is going to do investigation. Whilst doing the investigation, what will be happening to them?
What will happen is that definitely they have been arrested, so somebody will have to bail them. But beyond that, we are looking forward to prosecution, because it looks like they are not taking us serious. Because we have just started a new process and already look at what is happening. Probably they want us to bar our teeth at them before they do the right thing, and that we shall surely do. We are looking forward to seeing some of them in court.
The exercise is expected to continue until all selected shops for EVAT system complied with.
Well, a wrap of that journey, but let's get more from the Ghana Revenue Authority. Joining us now is Joseph Anan. He is the team lead for the Ghana Revenue Authority undertaking this crackdown and joins me now for a conversation on this. Thank you for your time. First of all, tell us about this crackdown and why has this become necessary for the Ghana Revenue Authority?
Thank you, and good afternoon to your listeners. Yes, like you already know, we started this program, that is the EVAT electronic invoice. We started 1st of October, and we started with 50 taxpayers, and we were expecting them to be compliant. So what we did was to allow them to settle down and now move in and then see whether they are compliant by buying from them, and then see whether they will issue the appropriate invoice. That is the certified true copy. That should come from the system. The new system works this way. Once you sell and you are on our system, that's the platform, it gives us real-time reporting at our end. And there are some security features on the receipt that is issued from the system. So we bought from them, and we are still buying from them. And once we get an invoice or a receipt that does not conform to the required standard, then obviously you are committed an offense, and definitely we will bring you to book. And so currently what we are doing is going after those who are trying to evade tax by not issuing the specified invoice from the system. So what you have seen us do from Monday to Thursday was to move in on those who are trying to shortchange us by not issuing the correct invoice.
How long do you intend to sustain this campaign? Many say it could be a 9-day wonder. You're just doing this for a while and it will all come to nothing.
Well, if that is their thinking, then they should revise their notes, because this is going to continue and even go beyond 2023, because this is a new system we have introduced. And once taxpayers are compliant, we are sure of getting all the revenue that they make out of their sale, so that we can also determine how much taxes are involved. So definitely, it is just not getting them on the system, but also making sure that they comply. And we are going to make sure that the 50 that are on board comply, so that those that will join them will know that you can't just be with us and then take things for granted.
Are you certain that these businesses have been trained on how to fully implement the EVAT system? There are concerns that it's a new system, and so possibly that's why you don't have compliance going well.
Yeah, you see, the problems are many and varied. There are some that are genuinely facing some challenges. And we do understand that since it's a new system, definitely we'll have some challenges. So as we run along, as we continue using the system, we'll be able to correct these challenges as we move forward. But you are looking at a situation where you have duplication of QR code. You have a duplication of signatures. Then you should know surely that this is not an error. It is a way of trying to beat the system. Because once you do that, you have maybe 4 or 5 receipts bearing the same QR code. What it means is that even if there should be any reporting at all, only one will be reported at our end. The rest of the 4 or 5 definitely will not be recorded at our end. And that is obviously revenue leakage.
The business community appears to be criticizing you for being fixated on the so-called high-income earners in terms of the category of businesses that you're targeting in this exercise. The corporates we've seen so far are from either shopping malls or big retail centers. Is that the approach you're adopting now? And is it fair to say you're being fixated on these so-called foreign companies?
No, that is not the case. It seems to be the case, but that is not the case. In selecting the 50, we looked at their revenues, we looked at the complexity of the businesses and other parameters. So we have among these 50, some that are small and some that are big. We have some, in fact, it's a tall list. So this is not the end of our enforcement exercise. So as the days run along, you will see some small businesses also. That is if they don't revise their notes. But we have a list that we are working with. So it's not targeting big, small, or foreign companies. We are looking at all companies that fail to comply with the e-VAT invoicing system.
What will be the corresponding effect on our revenue mobilization agenda?
Of course, once these things start and it's not checked, then the implication, as you all know, will be there. So it's better to start now when you have 50 of them, so that you check these things before they foster. Because we are going to roll out, get more on board, and make sure that once you start issuing invoice from your system, it is going to be on our platform, the electronic invoicing system. So it's very, very appropriate to tighten the knots now, so that whoever comes on board knows that this is how it is done. But if you let loose and people take us for granted and do as it pleases them, then obviously we won't get what we actually want from the system. Because this system has been introduced to plug loopholes, so that going forward we'll get the actuals. Because now, as it is now, before we introduce this system, taxpayers are paying the tax all right, but then we don't get the actual taxes that are paid. So anytime we go in to conduct audits, we see that we are getting more than what they declare to us.
Already, your task force has picked up some individuals, as we've pointed out in our report. What's likely to be the fate of these persons if they indeed fall foul of the law?
Yeah, what is happening is that once they have gone against the law, which is for you to, once you are hooked to our system, there is a prescribed receipt that you must issue. Once you go against that, you have actually committed an offense. And then there are infractions, there are penalties that go with these infractions. And when you come into our VAT Act that we have used, or we use to, administer the tax, we have Section 58, Section 59, that talks about the penalty that goes with these infractions. So we are looking at a maximum penalty of 1,500 penalty units. And the penalty unit is about 12 Ghana cedis. It's actually 12 Ghana cedis. And then you are looking at an imprisonment of not more than 5 years, or both. But where we are able to establish the tax that is payable, which you fail to pay, then that amount is, as penalty, will be 3 times. That is, you are going to pay 300%. That is the maximum as penalty. That is, if you are able to establish how much we have lost.
Let's talk about the next steps. But where are you heading next? Obviously, you wouldn't want to put out your approach in the public. So it's fair to say you would not be able to mention the specifics. But what's going to be the next line of action after going to some of these shops, arresting and picking up people who are defaulters? What are we likely to see again in terms of the clampdown on tax evaders?
Now, for now, those that we have arrested, the CID is currently investigating. They were made to take their statements and they were billed. So now the CID is currently building the docket against them. They are investigating these taxpayers. And going forward, like I said, we have a list that we are working with. So you will see more of such actions in future.
If there's any other problem this situation is bringing up, it will be the issue of education and awareness creation. I mean, many, frankly, have not heard about this EVAT system, you agree? So what do you intend to do in terms of educating, creating awareness, and trying to get more businesses to roll on?
Yes. Brought on board, that's the 50. Had some good education. The implementation even started. But of course, education never ends. So even what we are doing now is education. And we hope to, going forward, to educate them more. Currently, they even have a platform that they post their challenges on. And that platform, we are also on that platform. So we share ideas where they are having challenges. We go in there and see what the challenges are and see how to resolve them. So we going forward, we are currently doing it, but going forward, we need to, do a lot more of that.
And just as we wrap up, I'm also being drawn to public participation. Obviously, you want citizens to be on board in policing the system. So for instance, if I walk into any of the shops that's not compliant in terms of this EVAT system, how do I realize that? How do I identify that indeed there's a shortfall here, a reason for which I could perhaps carry to moving?
Yes, it's a good, addition to our drive. There are some features that should be represented on a receipt, like the signature, the barcode. We have the QR code. The thing should be there. Actually, I should have all the elements that the previous VAT invoice has, and additional ones like the barcode, which you need to can be read electronically, and then the signature, and then of course the other features there. But then obviously these things we should have probably an handout on that. Some of these things to educate the public so that they can also help us in, checking compliance and also making sure that taxpayers do the right thing.
So let me give you the opportunity to speak to the business community and those who may be hiding and obviously are not being picked up by your system. What message do you have for such individuals?
Yes, what I'll say to the public is that we are all in this together. Yes, that GRA has been given the mandate to mobilize revenue. And that is what we do, and that is what we are paid for. So once this is the direction that we are going, it is not an idea wonder. Now this is how we are going to approach tax mobilization, revenue mobilization. So please, if you think in the past you were evading taxes and nothing was happening, then you must revise your notes, because this time around, we are going to be there every day. We'll visit you every day. And now the public is also getting much more interested. In fact, this morning I've even received 2 invoices from the public. That we are going to work on. And I believe that going forward, we have a lot more of that. So please, do the right thing. If you do not understand some of these things, approach any of our officers, and I'm sure that will be of help to you. Because after all, we are all in this together. When we collect these monies, it doesn't stay with DRF. It goes straight into the consolidated fund. Now we are even doing electronic declaration and electronic payment by the taxpayers themselves. So all we do is paperwork. Everything goes straight to the bank and then straight to the consolidated fund. So please, let's together put our hands on the deck and then make sure that we all do the right thing for the trading public, the taxpayers. If you do not understand some of these things, just approach us so that going forward you don't find yourself on the wrong side of the law.
Okay then. Time to go. Joseph Anand, thank you for joining us and spending some time with us here on The Pulse. I'm grateful. Public officers, as we know them, just like all citizens, have the right to choose the educational setting that they feel is best for their children. However, it is common for governments to encourage or mandate public servants to send their children to public schools as the way to support and demonstrate the value of these institutions. Whether or not public officers should be compelled to keep their children in public schools is a matter of debate and can depend on various factors. Today, we invite you to that debate. And first of all, let's bring you this story from Mamprobi in the heart of the capital, Accra, which reviews the poor state of education in Ghana today. My colleague, James Aveji, found this report. Read to you.
Over the past few days, we have seen stories of the very sorry state of some schools in the rural areas of the country. Apparently, the problem is not limited to the hinterland. It is rife in the heart of the national capital as well. Here at the Mamprobi Simpe Junior High School, comprising the Simpe 1 Basic School, Mamprobi, Ebenezer 4 JHS, and Simpe 2 JHS. The school looks pale with dusty, rusty roofing sheet which leaks profusely anytime it rains. The buildings here are hanging on limping, exposed pillars which threaten to fall anytime soon. School authorities say they have to seek asylum in this never completing Get Fund building. That's not all. The school is also exposed to the public as almost half of the fence walls housing the school already gone. The remaining wall is also on the verge of collapsing. The school currently does not have any washroom for both teachers and pupils. But the mayor of Accra, Elizabeth Saki, says an ongoing washroom project will soon be completed to resolve the challenge.
I'm happy to see the wash project being almost, I think we've had about 80% of the work done, which is a good initiative, and it's a good plus to the minister for seeing to that this is being done.
The situation is not different at the Mamprobi North 1 Basic School. Among several of the problems is the absence of a computer library for the hundreds of pupils. The headmistress of the school, Rita Oseajiman, highlights some of the challenges.
The major one I will mention of is the roofing system. You see, it's an iron used amidst the breeze. So corrosion has taken place and we have holes in all over the place. When it rains, the rain comes directly into the classrooms, which affects learning. When it starts raining, we have to close up and go home. This has affected almost everything in the school. The electricals are affected, the ceilings are off. And to add to it, our computer lab, we cannot use it because the effects is on the electricals too. If you don't take care, it will cause a very big problem to the children. So these are some of the problems. And all the woodworks in the school, due to the rains, they are all peeling off. So these are some of the challenges. We can't use our cupboards because they are all off. The wood, everything is off from the cupboard. We have some in good shape, which we can use. Even last term, a company came to donate 5 brand new computers. We cannot mount them due to this problem. So some are in good shape. If the place is in session, we can have some to use. Yeah. You're welcome.
Addressing these infrastructure challenges, the mayor, Elizabeth Saki, promised that the assembly is looking for resources to fix them as she appealed to corporate Ghana to come on board.
And then I also want to plead with all the corporate entities, thank you, that's it, the corporate entities, so that at least they can come on with their social responsibility, which I believe strongly that will help to enhance all that we have seen.
The tour resumes next week to check on the state of roads in Accra. James Kwesi Aveji's report for Joy News.
Also, in the wake of the numerous complaints about the quality and state of education, we begin that conversation this afternoon. Must public office holders be compelled to give their children the education they give to persons, same in public institutions? Joining us now on Zoom is Dr. Peter Anti, Party Executive Director for the Institute for Education Studies. Thank you, sir, for your time. That debate has come up where there's mounting pressure that at least let's pass policy measures that will ensure that politicians, of course, take their wards to public institutions. Will that be a feasible way of ensuring that we get quality education in the country?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers. My approach to policy formulation is that we first have to ask ourselves, what problem are we trying to solve? And the problem is technically the poor state of infrastructure and resources in basic schools. Now, if we want to solve that problem, what are the various alternatives available to us? Are we saying that the most feasible and best alternative is to ask public officials to send their wards to the same public schools that all of us our kids are enjoying? Well, I don't think trying to legalize this is the way to go. I think maybe they have the moral responsibility to do that, and more so in our social system where the education of the child does not rest with only one person in the family. You have maybe the mother also having a say in the type of school that the ward is supposed to attend, or the father having a say. So are you saying that in the case whereby the public official is a woman, the father would have to still kowtow to the decision to send the ward to a public school because the wife is a public official, or the other way around, because the husband is a public official, the wife will have to agree to send the ward to a public school? I think it's going to be something difficult to get it to be implemented. Again, even if we are able to do that, we should note that most at times these public schools in the urban settings, most at times some of them are in good shape. You once in a while see one or two of these public schools not having the needed infrastructure and other resources, but in most cases you will see a lot of them having the needed infrastructure and resources. So if you compel the public official to send the ward to a school in the urban center, he will make sure that in that particular district or in that particular place, that whatever it is that the students are supposed to enjoy, he will make sure that the students get that. But how do you compel him to push those things to the rural settings, to those deprived communities? How do you compel him to do that? So I feel that it's a moral obligation on them. If they decide to send their wards to those schools, that is a moral obligation. But then it is duty bound on them when they are elected or selected or appointed to head public institutions in terms of the education sector. It is duty bound on them to treat each and every ward fairly in terms of distribution of educational resources. And when they are not able to do that, we hold them accountable, and we either force that they vacate the position or they are removed by the appointing authority. I think that is the way to go. But compelling them to send their wards to the same public schools like all of us might not lead to the solution that we are looking for.
Very often the comparative analysis is being made to what happens elsewhere.
Well, I've heard and I've read that in certain cases, in certain jurisdictions, that is the norm, that you are supposed to, or your wards are supposed to be in the public education system. But then you can even switch it to other sectors. the health sector. How many times do we see our politicians, our big men, going to the same hospitals or clinics that we all visit? So in our part of the world, this is something that is going to be very difficult to enforce, and that's why I said that my way of looking at policy proposition is to ask myself, how would this alternative or this solution that people are proposing, how will it lead to that kind of solution that we want? And is that the only feasible alternative that we have? If there are other alternatives that can be explored, I think we should go for that. And of course, make this a moral something on the public official, because it's going to be difficult for us to get the public officials to obey this kind of legislation if we want to go that tangent. We know our politicians, their wives don't give birth in Ghana, they don't attend hospital in Ghana, and all these things. So if you are going to add education to where, you know that definitely they will not obey this rule. And what's use or what's the essence of a regulation when it is not going to be obeyed or respected by those who are supposed to respect and obey them?
Grateful. Dr. Peter Antic is with iFirst. Thank you. A group calling itself the Concerned Students Association of the University of Ghana is this afternoon demanding an immediate removal of the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Nana Abba-Piamfo, from office over what they describe as the lack of leadership in resolving students' concern. The group, which took to the streets earlier today in a movement dubbed Yabremo 2.0, also protested management's recent 40% fee increment, accommodation deficits as well. My colleague James Kwesi Efechi joined the demonstrators from Obrasport to the Independence Square, where the students presented a petition to the Ministry of Education.
Management of the university, precisely the Vice-Chancellor, has failed in ensuring peace and security on campus and should find herself to blame and not the hallmaster and senior tutor for a clash that has not been proven residents of Commonwealth or were involved. We call for the immediate removal of the Vice-Chancellor if she continues to find justification in the decision of removing the hallmaster and senior tutor of Commonwealth as a result of the negligence of her duty of ensuring peace and security on campus, and also upon refusal to accept blame for the said clash. Last year, residents of traditional halls paid a sum of 854 Ghana cedis for a year as accommodation fees, but this year, university management has increased the prices by more than 75%, and as a result, students have to pay 1,500 cedis yearly for traditional halls. Concerning the UGA hostels, the updated prices stand at 3,842 a year minus JCR dues and then fuel levy. With last year's price standing at 2,980 per year, representing approximately a 30% increment. These increments are unreasonable. Students are suffering and we demand clarity. 1,000 cedis every month as allowance for entertainment, and we need clarity to this information. Here are our demands. Number one, students demand a refund of the unlawful monies they have been charged as school fees and a reversal of the unreasonable and exorbitant prices of residential accommodation on campus. Number two, we demand that management of the university comes up with a clear plan on solving accommodation problems. Lasting solutions have to be meted out to this long-existing problem immediately. Also, starting from this year, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, every student wants to see hostels springing up on the university campus. Number three, students demand that university management reverses their decision on the academic fees increment and immediately comply to the Minister of Education's directive on the 2021 academic year's fees increment. Demand number four, we demand an immediate reversal of the in-out-out-out policy, which has proven not to solve the accommodation problems, but rather incur several challenges on students. Number five, students demand reinstatement of JCRs of both Commonwealth Hall and Mensa Sabah Hall. Continuing students of these halls of residences should be sent back. The hall master and senior tutor of Commonwealth Hall, who are relieved of their duties, should be reinstated immediately. Point number six. Also, we demand that management shows concern to the rampant cases of scam where innocent students and parents or guardians are robbed of their hard-earned money, and a situation of protocol fees paid by students and parents or guardians to be able to secure accommodation. Point 7, we demand a stop to student brutalities. Point 8, we demand the issue of all unaccredited courses resolved immediately. Point 9, we demand that there is a lift of ban on Hall Week celebrations and the lift of ban on the hypocritical ban of public gatherings as well.
For this demonstration, of course, a peaceful one that has not caused any havoc in town. I want to thank the police service that has guided you here safely. And on behalf of the Minister for Education, Dr. Yao Ose Educhum, and on behalf of the President, I take this petition from the student leadership and I will present it to the Minister. I know the Minister is going to engage all stakeholders that are mentioned in this petition so that together we can have a solution to this problem. Education cannot fester on a campus that is very, very rowdy and rioting. God bless you. Education can only fester in peace, and we need educational people. We need people who have the knowledge to move this nation forward. Amen. Therefore, your petition will be taken care of. I will present it to the Minister, and you will hear from the Minister.
To the issue of private hostels you raised in your petition, you have accused some senior members of the university of taking advantage of the problem on campus to put up hostels and charging students very exorbitant fees. Which of these hostels belong to which senior management, and how much are they charging for it?
Okay, so we'll just be, we'll say, you see, these are alleged things that have come up, and it is out of the plights after speaking to students. In the petition, one thing that we said was we need affordable, units to be.
Does that mean that the concerned Student Association of the University of Ghana have just heard rumors of senior management putting up hostels and renting to a student in exorbitant fees, and have put it in their petition?
Yeah, to confirm to that, this year in particular, we experienced something. After the portal for accommodation has been opened for students to apply, that's the normal UJ hostels, the traditional halls, Pentagon, Bani, Ivandi. After that has been exhausted, 2-3 hours after us, we have the portal being opened again. The portal was open and we had private hostels on it, like Heaven's Gate and the rest on the portal of.
Are those the ones owned by the school senior manager?
Those are our claims. That's what we believe in. Because for you to put those hostels on the portal means you have a share in it. Yes.
Is it the school management that are below the hostel?
Yes, please. Is the school management.
Have you raised these concerns to them?
Yes, we've raised these concerns and nothing has been done about it. They said they don't care. They said they don't care because for you to put hostels from UPSA on University of Ghana website, what are you telling me? What are you telling me? I can say boldly that they have shares in him. This is enough evidence to confirm what you are saying because we have no alliance with UPSA. We have no alliance with UPSA that we will say that is because of our alliance that we are putting hostels of UPSA on our portal. And those hostels are very, very expensive. 5,600 plus.
If apart from this, nothing is done, is it only going to be limited to the demonstration, or there are some other activities coming up?
Okay, so you see, before I answer that, I want to say this. Our demands are very simple. So we are even expecting them to meet them immediately. The demands are simple. This year, we want to see hostels springing up on campus. If you do not have the money, you can get proposals with investors, private investors. They are willing to come on board. Real estate is a very profitable venture. You might not get the profits there and then, but then with time, you get your profit. So private investors, we believe.
Why do you think these things are not happening?
We believe or we think that some of the conditions that they give them are not juicy enough to bring them on board to build hostels for students. So we are saying that, you see, these demands are simple. If they are not met with pragmatic solutions immediately, then we'll take it to the next level.
Let's bring in Opon Chichuku, who's with the student, before we talk about the gold for oil deal. Opon, thank you so much for your time here on the Pulse. So what will be your next line of action if government fails to deal with your concerns of accommodation on campus?
Hello?
Yes, I was asking about your next steps following today's demonstration.
All right, so I think that we have, in our previous engagement, outlined series of, activities that will be taken in defense of the rights of students. One is what we just saw happen. This was not ideally orchestrated by the National Union of Ghana Students, but this is something that we think that the students are right on. And for us as a union, or for us as a national union, what we'll be doing is that we'll keep up with the engagement at various headquarters, at various offices that we need to do. We'll keep on defending the rights of students. And then we'll be sending out strong messages to our universities that, look, these matters of accommodation, these matters of school fees and all of that are matters that have the tendency to truncate education at the very highest levels. And so when there are laws that should be followed to the core in ensuring that students have a safely and a sound academic environment to study in, the universities and whatever agency or whoever is in charge and position should not stand in the way of students in a matter of trying to avert the law or doing what they think is right in their own opinions. And I'll tell you, the next line of action of the union would not be discussed on media like we have done in the previous times. We have said that we love the engagement because we think that we can get whatever results that we want to get via engagement and via negotiations. But we think that at this point, especially for university managements like the University of Ghana, it is becoming more of a tyranny that is persisting in the university. And we think that we also need to bolster our steps. And so expect more from us, more bolstered steps that would take the university maybe by surprise, and then we would not stop and we would get whatever that is due our students for them to keep going.
And just what you can see on the screens there, VC must go, it's part of the messaging that ran through today's demonstration. Is it the case that you're asking for her dismissal? Some say it's far-fetched, isn't it?
I think that when demonstrations of a sort happen, people come out with all of their grievances to the bear. And for me, as International Relations Secretary, yesterday, I was following a demonstration by UK students on Aberdeen campus, just about students' rights and students' welfare, just like this. And a lot of the placards that came out, most of them were concerns of students that felt that, okay, this is not right, and so while we are having a demonstration, let's fix in this message. But I think that the crux of our argument has been made clear, that look, you cannot raise fees above 15% increment that have been approved by Parliament, legally approved, and as well, you need to, as much as you can, work on issues that affect students, such as accommodation. These are the major issues that form the crux of our argument. And I think that every well-meaning Ghanaian buys into our argument and whatever that we have been saying over and over the last few weeks. And so for whatever that has been said by any student concerning the VC's position and what have you, I think that that is not the position of the National Union of Ghana Students. What our position is that as a listening VC, as Professor Nanaba Apiamfo is, she should listen to the cries of her students. As a big mother as she is, we are expecting that when the students call out on her that their fees are too high and they can't pay, when the students are on the verge of losing out on a quality education because their fees have been raised to as high as 38% increment, she would listen and make them feel that she is a listening mother as they are. And maybe in the next demonstration or whatever activity, these things will not be coming up.
Well, I'm grateful, Poncho Shukru, for joining us here on The Pulse. Now to the gold for oil deal. The Bank of Ghana says it is unable to confirm if that first consignment of oil received under the gold for oil deal was indeed paid for in cash and not gold. Well, some reports in the media indicate that the first tranche of the oil that arrived was paid for with cash. The pronouncements are coming at a time when Ghanaians and consumers are mounting pressure on government to effect the corresponding change of a reduced fuel price at the pumps through the gold for oil deal. JoyNews was on the streets of Accra earlier today, where some consumers appealed for a reduction in fuel prices in the wake of the arrival of the first consignment of the gold for oil deal. There's more in this report.
We said, let's do something that the textbooks don't teach you. Let's do something that is out of the box. And this is why we said gold for oil. Thankfully, Ghana took its first delivery of oil under the Gold for Oil program.
This was Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia announcing the arrival of the first consignment of the Gold for Oil deal. Government explains that amongst many other targets, the direct barter trade of Ghana's precious metal with the oil will tackle the depreciation of the cedi whilst reducing the pressure on Ghana's foreign reserves.
But we are working very fast to implement as quickly as possible. If we could start implementing this today, we will start, because we don't have patience. We are eager. We are working hard to reduce the burden on the people of Ghana. And so, granted that we can even start today, we will do that.
But how much is this policy measure costing the state? And what will be the effect of the deal on the individual consumer who is purchasing the finished product at the pump? Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, says the gold for oil deal is working very well.
And at the same time, using the government-to-government arrangement to bring prices down at the pump. And so far, it seems to be working well.
But that may not exactly be the case on the ground. Petroleum prices have seen a sharp rise. This is having a toll on Ghanaian consumers who argue that although the policy measure have good intentions, it is not yielding proper benefits.
It's a good idea if only that the price of gold will also fluctuate to come back to square one. That means what is happening with the dollar. If that won't happen, then it's a good idea. But me being a motorist, for instance, I use my motor for delivery services for my company. I think that if the price increases like that, the price of like it just did recently, it affects the price we also charge, the cost we also charge for delivery as well. So if they can use gold to purchase the fuel and make the price stable for us also, to also continue our business, for the consumers also not to incur more costs on whatever they are buying from us. I think it's a very beautiful idea.
The government is saying he wants to do a deal for gold for oil. It should be something that we should be filling at the pumps, and our pockets should be good. But now you brought the first consignment, and yet still we can't fill it at the pumps. That meaning the deal is not well fit. So they should come again. They should come and explain how they are going about the deal, because this is not something that they promised. They say we'll fill it at the pumps, but I'm at the pump right now buying fuel, and it's nothing to show for it.
So, why are there market fluctuations in spite of the gold for oil deal? Dr. Stephen Opata is Director of Financial Markets at the Bank of Ghana.
So, but the way it works is that when we buy this gold, boss must sell it to the BDCs and OMCs. They collect the cash. They give the cash back to BOG. BOG will recycle this cash to buy gold. So some people have argued that it's going to be inflationary and so on, and we believe the impact is minimal because it's the same cedis that we are going to be recycling.
Well, a report there of some of the sentiments on the streets of Accra. But answering questions of Ningo Pram MP Sam George at the Public Accounts Committee earlier today, Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afari explained that the Bank of Ghana is more involved in the purchase of gold instead.
I don't think I have... Order. Honorable Chair, I do not have the full details of that leg of the transaction with me at the moment. What I know is that the Gold for Oil program has two legs. It has the gold purchase program leg and then the oil leg. The Bank of Ghana is fully involved on the gold purchase side, which then translates into oil. So I may have to go back and check how the oil side was transacted. But what we know is that we have fully paid and bought gold that is enough to support the oil transaction.
This is very reassuring, and I'm excited that Deputy Governor Afishapa, the word on the streets is that the first consignment of 40,000 metric tons of oil that came under the gold for oil barter deal was paid for with cash using an intermediary. Such a transaction, the Bank of Ghana will be in the know of it, yes or no? And can you confirm if it was paid for in cash?
What I can confidently share is the metric tons of gold bought by Bank of Ghana. As I said, we have two legs of the transaction, so I will not go into the exchange transaction. But the gold purchased by Bank of Ghana is not new. We introduced the gold purchase program as part of our building our reserves, and we are using a component of that program to support the gold for oil. So the metric tons of gold purchased by Bank of Ghana, I can share the details with the committee later on when I get back to the office. But what I can also confirm is that the gold is being purchased in local currency, cedis. So it's a conversion of our domestic assets into foreign assets. And then it is being purchased at the world market price. We use the Bloomberg and the Reuters market price to purchase the gold. So those I can confirm. And in terms of the ounces that have been purchased as at now, I'll beg of the committee so that I can supply that data later on, because I do not have that with me now.
I'm excited, and thank you.
Well, so that's the position of the Bank of Ghana on this. I want to bring in Dr. Yusuf Suleimana, who's an energy strategist and policy analyst. Thank you, sir, for your time here on the Pulse. So a clear revelation there from the Bank of Ghana indicating that it is just concerned with the purchase of gold. As to what then happens beyond that point, we're not too sure. It raises questions?
Yeah, certainly. Blessed. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your charity viewers. Certainly, that is raising a lot of questions. For him to clearly mention that, he's much aware of one component of the deal, but is not much aware of the other component, is certainly worrying, because the deal cannot succeed if the two components are not linked up seamlessly. We have the gold side and we have the oil side. And so whatever impact or whatever dynamics that is happening in the gold side, we should be very much interested in the oil side, because that is the direct impact. And from day one, there has been a lot of, lack of clarity in the whole deal. If we had earlier on, if you have cogent documents that we could interrogate from the day one, I think that would have helped a lot. But until now, even the parliamentarians don't even know what's going on. So that's certainly worrying. The caveat is, Blessed, this policy was supposed to be able to stamp authority on this, volatility in the currencies in terms of how much the dollar exchanges with the local currency. But until now, I think we haven't seen that. So that begs a lot of questions. So what is the essence of the policy as we speak? But I think the whole thing is that right now we need clarity. That's number one. If clarity is there, if there are some genuine difficulties that are involved, I think the government can come out and let the populace know that these are the genuine concerns that we have. Earlier on, I gave my very much 100% support in the way that, the whole entirety of the policy super area, if you watch it, because I don't like the way we are so much dependent on the greenback. We need to strategize to have alternative to relieve the pressure. So when I look at it superficially, I always say that, okay, if we can have such a noble policy that can minimize our dependence on the dollar, why not buy, especially if we have gold? Though I always say that the devil lies in the details, of course. But superficially or area, if you look at it, it's supposed to be a marvelous policy. However, if you go into the details, like I said, the devil lies in the details. We have to be able to make sure that whatever we said the policy is going to impact, it should be done. And the acid test for me is it should be able to cascade to, we having competitive prices at the pump. But as of now, we don't have competitive price at the pump.
And in fact, we've just pointed that out, and we've just pointed that out in our report earlier, pointing out how some consumers are asking government for that corresponding price at the pump. So why is that not happening?
Yeah, so it's not happening at the moment because from where I sit, I think the quantity that has come will not make an impact. It will have been very interesting to know how much ounces of gold that we have at the moment. Because if you do simple calculation, we will need not less than 200,000 ounces of gold to be able to meet our consumption monthly. And that is huge. And that would mean that we might have to stop small-scale miners from exporting gold all of a sudden. And I think that was the concept. So why we are not having the impact at the pump is just because the quantity is not enough to impact anything. 40,000 metric tons, if it's only diesel, it can only last, looking at our consumption, about 160,000 metric tons of diesel that we consume. If you do the calculation, that can only last a maximum of 7 days. What can 7 days do to the market? I think it will not. And if you even just oppose to the entire consumption, of petroleum products, which is estimated above 300,000, let's say 350,000, metric tons. That means that consumption, if you put it into that picture, it will be only 4 days. What will 4 days do to the market? So certainly the amount is not enough. And why we haven't had anything coming in is not surprising because of this inconsistency. The link between the gold side and then the oil side, there's certainly some segregation here. And I think the high time will make it seamless, the better. Other than that, no, the policy may be dead on arrival if you're not careful.
Is this looking like really a barter trade arrangement that government has put in place? Because already there are media reports that the first consignment we received was not even purchased with the gold as we're being told the policy was.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing, and that's why I said the policy lacked clarity at this moment. If we had documents to interrogate, to see what's going on, that would have been very clear. And I've seen documents to this effect. When the policy, first of all, was talked about, everybody knew that it was barter. So we were criticizing the policy based solely on the barter issue. That Ghana, we don't have enough gold. What is coming to us? So those were the challenges, and we all know challenges with respect to barter. But another document came, and that's what Bank of Ghana, the official was alluding to. If you look at that particular document that is cited, and I think it's circulating in the media, it's absolutely not a barter. It is.
Hello, Dr. Yusuf.
It's just simple trading gold.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's simple coming into the system, yeah, I'm saying that if you look at the second document that came up, the second document that came up, it is simply not a barter trade, and that's what the Bank of Ghana personnel was alluding to. So if it is that policy, that document that I saw, then it's the closed loop, which at the end of the day you will have to that impact the pressure on the city will still be there because it's a closed loop at the end of the day. But if you certainly will have a barter, let's say you have gold, the person needs gold, you have enough gold. You need his product, he has a petroleum product, and you can exchange. That will have some competitive advantage, though inherently it will have its own challenges. But the diagram I saw where you sell the gold, you sell it into, you sell the gold to Ghana cities, you buy it in the, you buy it in Ghana cities, sell it in, buy the gold, sell it in dollars, and use the dollars to buy petroleum product. What's that? It's a closed loop. That's simple, still the same thing we are doing. We are still trading the gold. What's novel about that? If that's the policy, then I think it's simply the old thing that we are doing, and we are just recirculating things up and down. So
and the concern by some industry players is that we're entirely wiping out the power of the BDCs. The BOG is no longer giving them the opportunity in terms of their dollar auctions, which normally would happen. And everyone now has to rely on this gold for oil approach. That may collapse the sector, isn't it?
Certainly, that may have huge impact. I wouldn't say collapse, but potentially huge impact. And I mentioned earlier on that I have two issues, a couple of issues with it. I didn't want us to disrupt the smooth operations of the downstream on one side, and then the gold traders on the other side, because this is a huge influence that we get, especially the gold export, the gold export. And so, and the downstream, I can tell you, controls about 7 to 8% of our GDP, and that's ballooned over the years. And so, I was always of the fact that, I mean, they even have to involve them into the picture, get them into the picture. And I saw a lot of a kind of correspondence between the PSP, that's petroleum service providers, the regulator, MPA, Bank of, and the whole people became. So I was happy about that. So I said, okay, these guys have been involved, and that's cool. But if you remember, early part of this month, or I think so, if you roll back a little bit, you remember Bank of Ghana said they could only supply 200 million, for the first quarter to auction.
Yes.
That is huge. That is
220 million, actually.
Yeah, 220 million. And we need 400 million for a month on monthly basis, maximum 350 to 400 million on monthly basis. And you're going to supply only 220 to the BDCs. So short term, if we are having issues with the policy, then they have to revise. They should ensure that they supply enough forex to the BDCs. Other than that, sure, our points will escalate. Because if you can't supply enough, forex to the BDCs, and yet the gold to oil deal cannot also cover the deficit, we're going to have escalation in the pumps. There's no two ways about that.
Another questions even about transparency. You just heard that the POG indicating that they're concerned with just the purchase of the gold. You may not be a lawyer, but you're certainly an active player in the energy sector. Is it possible to have this gold for oil deal arrangement without having it in an international transaction nature, given what government is doing now? Is there a possibility?
Yeah, there's always a possibility, but I think it's not the best way for international, because it's especially if the government machinery is dealing with it. In fact, at the end of the day, earlier on, I thought we were dealing a government-to-government arrangement. Let's say Ghana government is dealing with the UAE government. That would have been perfect. And the security is so ensured, and there will not be any other surprises. But I think we are not dealing directly with the UAE government. Maybe I may need clarity about that. If we're dealing with the UAE government straight, and we don't have any intermediary or a recognized body by the UAE government, who the UAE government has taken charge to deal with Ghana in terms of this deal, I think there will be a lot of security. In that case, government-to-government deal, of course, we need international, that requires a lot of transparency. But if it is vitiated with a lot of secrecy, a lot of lack of clarity, like what is currently happening, I think it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and I think, whatever the case, you're ruling out the possibility that this transaction may transpire other than an international arrangement or agreement. It falls within that category, correct?
Yes. I think it should have been international agreement. That would have been what I would prefer, because of security reasons and the possibility for default.
I'm asking that question because of the invitation for Parliament to exercise some supervisory role over the transaction. Would that be appropriate?
Yeah, I think that should be appropriate. And I would think that a deal of such magnitude, I mean, Parliament should have been in the know. I think that will create a lot of transparency, of course, yeah.
Well, let's wrap up on this. The Vice President says this was supposed to be the test case, what we received, the first consignment. If anything, if we are good to go by the figures, the resultant effects at the pumps, but the case is that the prices of fuel appears to be going up marginally. So is it early days yet in terms of assessing that indeed this test case has worked or otherwise? What's your stance on this?
Yeah, so I always say that the acid test will be the fact that it should be able to cool down the pumps. It should be able to have impact on the pumps. And at the moment, it's not doing so. And can we say the early days yet? I mean, we have been seeing early days yet for quite some time. I mean, the whole of January, we haven't received anything. The only thing that we knew was what we received. So I was thinking that by the end of January, we should have been able to receive something. Maybe something is still being worked behind the scene or on the horizon. We have to say getting to the middle of February. By middle of February or getting to the end of February, if you don't see anything substantial coming in, then I think they have to revise everything. They have to give out a lot of forex to the BDPCs to make up for the difference. Other than that, this kind of supply demand for the dollar will hit hard on the pumps. There's no two ways about that. But beyond that, Blessed, I always say that we have to look beyond such policies. I see these such policies as just a short term. If you want to minimize the dependence on the dollar, this is not the kind of arrangement that you have to do to minimize the dependence of the dollar. We have very sustainable ways. What you can do is to minimize the amount that you take out to import it. And you have local refineries. This is the most credible and the most sustainable way that we can do. All this effort, if you are channeling it to making our local refineries work and work efficiently, let's say we wouldn't need over $400 million to go out and import finished products. Even if we could import half of it, and the local refinery can take the other half. That is a major conduit, and such a thing actually will cascade into the entire economy. Remember, you have a lot of job opportunities that are created if local refineries are running. So I think we should look at it in that way. We should look beyond this kind of barter deal and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, we are still exposed to international forces, and whenever there's a shift in any international dynamics, even with gold to oil in place, we're going to be impacted. There's no two ways about that. And these things are traded on international basis. It's not that they are going to buy it on any subsidized price. No. It's going to be bought based on international prices. And so when there's any change or dynamics or any shift in the international dynamics, with even gold to oil in place, definitely to have cascading impact. However, if we had got to the refinery, that would have helped a lot. Yeah.
Already, the deregulation policy setting in, becoming an albatross, as some government officials are describing it, to the effective implementation of the gold for oil deal. We've heard, for instance, from the Deputy Energy Minister point to the fact that, well, the supplies are in, but the OMCs are not willing to change the prices at the pumps. We're also looking at our policies and our laws. How do we find that fine balance?
That's a very interesting one. I mean, if you look at Ghana, our deregulation sector, we have a little bit of problem. It's not entirely, I don't think we've deregulated the entire market. If you liberalize the entire market and liberalize every component of it, that would have made major impact. Because this is the case that, I mean, if it is, I mean, that's the conception everybody has. And they say, when prices are going up, it is easy for them to increase. And we've all seen it. That's a fact. I'm a consumer and I've seen it. When prices are coming down, they do so in a slow pace. And they will give you every kind of explanation that the dollar is not stable. And sometimes you cannot fault them for that. You can see the way the CDs and the dollar exchange is misbehaving or fluctuating. So I think our deregulation has a bit of a problem. And the problem is the huge tax component that we have put on our price buildup has paralyzed the effectiveness of deregulation. If you have too much taxes on the price buildup, as we have now, number about 40% of the entire price buildup is made up of taxes. All right, and we can't do anything about that. At the end of the day, the deregulation policy becomes very challenging, and it will be paralyzed. And that's the pain of it. And so it's very difficult. And then the second thing I will mention is that we say we are deregulated. Blessed, we have only 3 major players who are very active, and they carry the largest share. Unfortunately, they charge the most. We have Gold, Shell, and Total. Shell, Total, Gold, the market leader. These 3 guys are those who control the entire market. We do have Petrosol and other coming in, but these 3 guys have the chunk of the market share, and they charge the most. So if the market is deregulated and so competitive enough, maybe the consumers would have looked at, okay, I have other oil marketing companies who can charge less, but where are they found? Just drive from 37, just drive from, the question about to 37, this Liberation Road, this major street. Which other fuel station are you going to see? If not Shell, Gold, and Total. These are the major ones you're going to see. So these are all challenges that we have, and they charge the most. So these are all the challenges of deregulation. If we need to let the deregulation work perfectly, probably we have to deregulate a lot of components within the price buildup, and then we don't play around. We see how we can massage the taxes, Because if you have too much taxes on it, I think it will paralyze the effectiveness. Because the PSP will be crying. And what's up? Let me conclude it this way. The interesting thing that is happening is that, blessed, in the price builder, we have three guys who are the key stakeholders. We have consumer on one hand, we have the PSPs, and then we have, the government of Ghana who take charge of the taxes. And so whenever there's a shortfall in any place, let's say if international market prices are dropping or Platts is dropping, and there's a little bit of space, one of these players will kick in. Either taxes will increase or the PSP's margin will increase. So where lies the consumer? Where lies the deregulation? So you find it difficult to see how deregulation will get prices down. But otherwise, it is the best. We can't throw it away. I think it has done a lot to the market. We only need to, tweak it and let it work and work effectively.
Okay,
and the NPA, I think they're doing so well. They have to also make sure that prices, PSPs don't unnecessarily take and do advantage of the market weaknesses.
Grateful. Dr. Yusuf Suleiman, thank you for your time here on The Pulse. There's also an air of caution at Bawku and its environs. We'll tell you all about it when we return from this break. Please stay. You're welcome back. Let's take you up north because there's an air of caution at Bawku and its environs. Residents are either avoiding public places or moving with care. This is as a result of the recent violence that has resulted in the death of at least 6 residents. The military deployment to the area is being accused of carrying out these murders. And of course, the military has since described the incident as an operation geared at neutralizing the threats posed by some armed men. The Regional Security Council in the last 24 hours has held a crucial meeting after which it announced stepping up engagement with traditional authorities to find lasting peace to the ethnic conflicts believed to have some underlying causes of violence as well. Stephen Yakubu is the Upper East Regional Minister.
6 months ago, I had to virtually put my life on the line because one of the UN agencies was actually trying to take off projects in Bawku, and I had to put my life on the line to say that, to guarantee virtually that, look, we were going to make sure that Bawku is peace in Bawku, and therefore they cannot take it out. But here we are. It's very sad. We have been doing our best to make sure that there is peace in Bawku. The Interior Minister, the Minister for Defense, CDS, and all the big people, IGP, they're all here for us to see if we can prepare peace. And I think it lasted for a bit, and then it started all over again. If you sit down and you think about it, you really don't know the reason why it is getting this way. And I think that probably there are also criminality in it. There's politics in it, criminality in it. People have their own reasons why they probably don't want this to end. So I want to appeal through this medium that, look, let's give peace a chance, because Bawku is virtually dying. And it's something that I am very, very concerned. And we are doing more initiatives, something that I don't want to talk to you about, but very soon you will see that we're going to be engaging people in the Bawku area. RESEC will probably have to move. We are planning to move to Bawku. RESEC is going to move to Bawku to engage. Our hotspot now is the jihadis in the region, or the jihadis across the border, and also the Bawku problems. So those are the things that we discuss. Of course, there are security matters, and I can't tell you what we discussed.
I want to bring in Albert, Upper East Regional Correspondent. And Albert, a lot of meetings and engagements have been taking place. First of all, tell us about the recent incidents that have, of course, affected social life within the Bawku municipality itself. How are residents feeling now?
This recent incident happened 2 days ago. Between 7 to 10 people, we're told, lost their lives. The people of the Sogah suburb of Bawku were accusing the military of perpetrating these killings. Now, the military, as you would have seen yesterday, also released a statement on it, explaining how the incident happened. So the Regional Security Council has said that, looking at the two stories that are coming up from the citizens and then from the military, they will investigate what actually happened and see what next to do. Initially, the tempers were high because the relatives of those who lost their lives were not taking this very calmly. But since they've had an engagement between the traditional authority, the Regional Security Council, and the relatives of these people, things have calmed down a little bit as the Regional Security Council moves to investigate and also try to calm nerves as they try and get to the bottom of the matter.
The resolution of the RECSEC was to increase military presence. Are we beginning to see that?
Can you repeat the question?
The indication we got as part of the fallout from the RECSEC meeting was that security will be stepped up in the area. Are we seeing more boots on the ground?
Yes, the security are remaining on the ground because remember, this recent incident has to do with the military and then some people of the area. So the reason why the security are there, which has to do with the chieftaincy conflict that has been in Bawku for some time, continues to persist. And so the troops and the other security agencies that are on the ground will remain in position. Last night, when the Regional Security Council released a statement on this particular incident, one of the things they put in that statement was to caution the citizens of the area where the recent incident took place to try and desist from making any attempt to engage the military in any sort of confrontation. So the security are still in place, and RECSEC will continue with their investigation. We are told by the regional minister that from today onwards, they will meet all the stakeholders and every party that has information as far as this matter is concerned, as part of the investigation they are doing. And then they will get to the bottom of it and let us know what the rest of the roadmap would be to ensuring that there is peace in Bawku, and also there is that cooperation between the security agencies and the citizens of the area.
I'm grateful. Now, former Finance Minister Emmanuel Tekpe has advised his successor, Ken Ofori-Atta, the Finance Minister now, to listen to advice from the technocrats at the ministry. President Akufo-Addo has come under intense pressure to sack the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, for non-performance. Speaking in a yet-to-be-aired interview on PM Personality Profile, Mr. Tekpe hinted listening to technical advice from directors at the ministry is one of the pillars to his success during his tenure as Finance Minister.
The public servants. The Ministry of Finance has, and I'm not saying this because I was an employee there, but you have people who have, when you talk about 17 programs, by the time people get to the director levels and the chief director level, they may have handled, the current crop of directors may have handled them or be part of 4 or 5 of these programs in their career. And the earlier ones, some of them like Sokwafari and the rest, who is our Minister of Health, we started at the same time with them, and they're still, so there's a lot of experience, immense and others. So listening to them, and the economists in their own rights, their accountants, the controller and others, some of them were, so you have that technical, backup, and I think listening to them because they have been through thick or thin.
Yeah.
So getting closer. So we made sure when I was in office that Monday morning directors meetings was taken serious.
And don't forget that that full conversation will be here on the Joy News channel at 9 p.m. So make a day to watch that. Now, our flagship program, Joy Clean Ghana campaign, is back on your screen for the year 2023. The campaign is a collaboration between JoyNews and the Accra Metropolitan Assembly with a focus of educating the public on sanitation bylaws and hold offenders responsible. Head of Environmental Health and Sanitation Unit of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, Florence Kuchi, joins us in studio as we discuss the plans for this year. We'll have that conversation shortly, but first, here are excerpts of the first exercise for this year, where the mayor herself, Elizabeth Saki, joined my colleague Michael Ashale and the team in some parts of the Accra.
Chaotic scenes at the Agbogloshi market as task force of the AMA seeks to enforce the bylaws that forbade anyone from selling on the shoulders of the street and on open drains. But the offenders will not go down without a fight. And some of these people have decided to take the law into their own hands and rescue their tubers of yam that were earlier taken from them here. Aside obstructing the free flow of traffic, the foodstuffs sold by these traders are at a higher risk of cross-contamination. After years of sensitizing them, they continue to break the law in a brazen fashion.
See, they've just displayed for sale the yam on the background, which is very bad. They've displayed for sale the yam on the background, and it is not every microorganism that has its way into food you cook that will die. Some will hibernate in the heat. Then when you eat it, it will then rejuvenate and start multiplying in you. And we all know that of late we've been hearing food poison issues in the country. And all these things are part of it.
Director of Environmental Health and Sanitation Unit of the AMA, Florence Kuchi, says the Assembly will deploy new strategies to curb the situation.
We have confiscated their goods several occasions, but they are refusing. Now, when you even seize the goods, they won't come again. Instead of seizing the goods, we are going to arrest the human beings. And take the human beings, take them to court. When court finds them and direct them not to do, maybe they will stop doing it. That is what we are going to do now. The whole of this month will be in Agbogloshi, and we'll make sure that before we leave Agbogloshi, Agbogloshi has turned into a new leaf.
And for the first time, the mayor of Accra, Elizabeth Saki, personally led the Joy Clean Ghana team.
All of them, these people, where are your boys?
Please, man, they are doing it at the back. They are coming.
Arrest all of them. How many times do they want us to talk to them? They know what they are doing is wrong, and yet they are doing it. Yeah. So arrest them.
For her, offenders will no longer be spared.
I'm in park here. This is what has created the problem at Yellow Sisiwache. Yeah. It's all because of this fault. You are training them, you are telling them what to do a whole year, and they are not responding to it. Now arrest them. Yes, arrest them. It's rather unfortunate, and I really feel sorry for my officers. Apparently, that shouldn't be the mood of the market, especially the yam sellers. They are fond of doing that. Either they attack you or they throw stones at you and others. I personally have come, but fortunately, because I'm the mayor, when I come, they are calm a bit and then they try to pack their things. But I've had enough of it. And if they've gone to that extent of attacking my officers, it tells you the next time it will be me. So I'm not going to take it lightly. And that's the action now.
A very difficult day for the JoyNews Clean Ghana campaign team. The mayor herself joined the team whilst they combed through the streets of
the Deregulation market to enforce the tenets of the AMA bylaws. Well, she's giving her word that she's going to come very hard because it's time that they put some action to the words they've been saying. This time, they'll be arresting even those who are buying from those breaking the law. For JoyNews, Michael Ashale.
That's, of course, a wrap of what happened day one of the Joy Clean Ghana campaign. Let's speak to Florence Kuchi, who was part of that team. I must say that you're starting the year off with such a difficult task. I mean, looking back at the reports, I'm sure that you have some reflections on what transpired.
Sure, I have a lot of reflections.
How was it for you on day one?
It's part of my job, and we have faced such issues so many times in the field, because as a field worker, there are times you go to the field and you face some of these things. But that doesn't mean that when it happens, you should stay back.
So you're not deterred by the confrontations that we've seen in that report?
No, please, because my main mandate is to safeguard and protect the health of the public. And so far as I am safeguarding and protecting the health of the public, it's just one out of many. So that one will not deter us from what we are doing.
This campaign has been on for some time now. Yes, we can say that many people are, of course, watching and adjusting their behavior accordingly. But you also have those who are, on the other hand, or the other side, still living their life the way they shouldn't be. Why is that happening? I'm sure that you've been interacting with some of them.
Yeah, you know, a typical Ghanaian person is always afraid of change. Anytime you are bringing a change that will let them do the right thing, they are always refusing to change. Mostly, I say in Ghana, if you want people to do the right thing, then tell them they shouldn't do it. Then they will start doing it. But as soon as you let them know that this thing you are not supposed to do it, that is what they will do. And also, the presence of, this is just a passing comment, we can see that there are presence of police officers all over town. But that doesn't still eradicate crime completely from town. It's just the same thing. As much as we are educating and then taking action, people are not taking, maybe not at where we are, but maybe apart from where we are, outside people are really abiding and they are doing the right thing. Because last year we ran an update on the Joy Clean Ghana we've been doing for the past 3 years. And the results we had were very marvelous. People from outside Accra were very happy. People were calling for it, asking that this should be replicated in all regions for them to do the right thing. So I think whatever it is, there's an achievement. Even if one person change, since you have gone out there to educate somebody, there's 100%.
Definitely, and as your partners, JoyNews will definitely sustain that campaign to ensure that we clean Ghana. But what's going to be the approach for this year? Are you bringing something new on board?
Sure. So this year, unlike last 4 years, this is the 4th year of Clean Ghana campaign that we started in AMA. So for the 3 years, we've used it to educate the people, sensitize them, create the awareness, hygiene promotion and all that. Those that will heed to it, they are heeding to it. But those that are not heeding, they will not. And because of that, with environmental health enforcement, legal or court action is always the last thing. You meet the person, you educate the person, you give the person abatement notice, asking the person to abate whatever nuisance the person is causing. When all those things fall into deaf ears, then a summons is being applied. But now, even we have the right to arrest and send them to court straight. So that is what we are doing. Last week, you saw we went to town, or it's like we went to town with a bus. And that is what we are going to do. We arrest you, we send you to court straight. And when court finds you, you go and come back. We'll arrest you, and you know, anytime court finds you and you go back to do the same thing, your fine keep increasing. And that is why we keep
And I've seen that in the last engagement, you picked up some individuals as well. I'm wondering what's going to happen to them.
Yeah, so we picked out about 23.
23?
Yeah, about 23 individuals in the market. So since that was the first day, we detained them at the office for a long time because the whole day they didn't sell.
Right.
And after that, we made them to sign an undertaking. We kept a copy with us and gave them a copy. So when next we go and we make arrest and your name appears on the undertaking list, it means nobody is going to talk your case.
So, aside where you went to last week, do you have a roadmap, or this is just a surprise? You always want to keep it under wraps?
We have a roadmap because it's throughout all the metropolis.
Okay.
Where we were on Wednesday is Ashedu Keteke.
Okay.
But because our Agboleshi market is one of our hardest places, and we want to change lives over there, we want to spend the whole of this month in our Agboleshi market. Maybe it may not be on the street, but it may be at a different place because there are a lot of issues around that place. And we all know that Agboleshi market is one of the biggest food hub in Accra. And if care is not taken and contamination sets in any part of food that people are going to buy, it will spread to a lot of people, and then there's going to be a very huge incident.
We don't want
we are
that
not
to
praying
happen,
for.
definitely. Yeah. But aside the sanction, how about education? Are we likely to see some sensitization in the coming days as well?
Sure, we are doing sensitization as well. As much as we are doing the vigorous enforcement at areas that we have been through and people are not listening, there are other places too. We will bring people together, we sensitize them, we ask them the main problem they have in their community and how they think with us we can come together and solve those issues in their communities. Then we take it from there.
From your desk, is there any special message for residents in Accra?
Sure. The special message I have for residents in Accra is that sanitation is a collaborative effort. It's everybody's business. Sanitation is a religion. If you are a Christian, you wouldn't want to live in a dirty place because cleanliness is next to godliness. So we should all put our hands together and ensure that we live in a clean city. You don't need to sit down and wait for somebody to come and tell you to keep your place clean. You don't have to sit down and wait for someone to come and tell that where you are selling is by the roadside. Because when there is a brake failure, a lot of things can happen, and they will start crying and mentioning the government to come to their aid. Market women should stop cooking in the market. It is causing a lot of fire outbreaks. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to leave it here. It's a Friday, so I'm sure that next week you'll be back with a lot of action. But Florence Kuchi, we're grateful. She's the head of public health at the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. Well, a bit of an update for you on the story. A member of the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral, Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng, has taken legal action against not only Member of Parliament Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa for defamation. The Reverend is demanding that Mr. Ablakwa retract and apologize for the allegation made against him on social media. The allegations made by Mr. Ablakwa include conflict of interest, wrongful payment of 2.6 million cedis to Reverend Kusi Boateng's JNS company by the National Cathedral, and holding double identities. However, Reverend Kusi Boateng denies all of these allegations and says that they, of course, have cost him significant reputational damage, both as a public figure and as minister of the gospel. As part of his legal action, Reverend Kusi Boateng is also asking Mr. Ablakwa to purchase a page in the Daily Graphic and publish the same apology and retraction 6 consecutive times over a 6-month period. Additionally, Reverend Kusi Boateng has filed processes to prevent Mr. Ablakwa from publishing any further allegations against him. And don't forget that we'll keep following up that story for you, but that's all we have for you here on The Pulse. I'm Blessed Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates on our stories for you there.